direct. Actually got the ball.
Good evening. Welcome back, Spurs fans and members of the Irish Hotspur. We are going to be doing the fan show once again this week. Did it last week, and it was a spicy one. We went the whole 2 hours. Unfortunately, not a whole lot has happened since then. I even kind of, tried to manifest some type of action for Tottenham Hotspur by saying, hopefully we have a bit more to be chatting about for the next one. It looks like not a whole lot's been going on Spurs news-wise. We have a little bit about Mohamed Kudus, but it's really only just talks between the club and the agent. But, we could chat about whether that's a big money signing for you, whether that's a guy that you think can come in and really change this team and, come in as the marquee signing, or are you a bit let down? Do you feel like it's a bit underwhelming? Kind of some of those things that we chatted about yesterday with Sam as well as Sean on the panel show. There's some bits about Sonny, maybe departing this summer as well. We can get onto that. Romero rumors of him leaving, Richarlison rumors of him leaving. Happy to discuss those departures and whatever else you guys might want to be talking about, because always, it's your opportunity to dictate the conversation. Doesn't need to be the Jack and Dave show. We'll try to keep you guys all well behaved though and on task, but it's up for you guys to dominate the program. But Dave, good to have you back. And like I said, I tried to manifest some sort of type of action for Tottenham Hotspur, but there's only so much I can do from the airwaves.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, we're all sitting around twiddling our thumbs right now, waiting for some action. Our first preseason game is in 17 days time. I mean, when you put the countdown timer on it like that, we really are taking the piss and pissing about. So, I'm hoping that it's dead quiet and something picks up towards the end of this week. If not, heading into next week, it's just going to anger fans more and more and leave fans questioning what the fuck is going on. So, time is of the essence now. It's getting close. We can't get into a situation where we did last season. You're bringing in a guy that you want to come in and bag you 20, 30 odd goals, bringing him in, just before preseason starts, and stuff like that. You got to give these guys and your new signings a fair chance to hit the ground running, get used to Frank's ways, tactics, etc. It's what every other club that are doing that have ambitions of winning the Premier League. Daniel Levy said his ambitions are, so pull your fucking finger out. But apart from that, actually, sometimes it is nice to have the quiet time, though. Sometimes, you can get shit done and, you can enjoy times with, enjoy some more time with loved ones and stuff like that. So it is nice sometimes, but, 17 days away from first preseason game, I'm starting to get a bit itchy feet now.
And I was checking the dates and the receipts. I think we hired Thomas Frank almost a month ago. So, with the lack of action that's happened since then, I think Spurs have been playing a bit of hide and seek, in the transfer window so far. A bit of an elusive type of transfer window. Good to see so many people already in the house. Thank you guys for joining us. Please, the queue isn't as big as what it was yesterday, so feel free to hop on if you are planning on joining the show. The link is at the top of the chat in case you do want to become a fan show member. Good to see Peter Elsie in the house, Alex Farron, Adrian Stroka's in here. Rain Man, we'll be talking to him very, very soon. Jason Bell, good to see you, Jason. Tartan Spurs, our man up in Scotland, good to see you. Iceman as well in the house. Maybe we'll get his question for later. Wemberley 1, Alpesh Patel, good to see you, Alpesh, as always. And we'll get the show, I believe, underway, Dave, without any further time wasting. Get the people on here. We have Paul, Ryan, Dermatron, and the Rain Man. And I think we had Eddie in the background. Hopefully we get Eddie back at some point. But lads, I think the first conversation is probably going to be about Mohamed Kudus. It looks like Tottenham have landed on Kudus as the #1 transfer target this summer. Spurs have had a bid of $55 million for Kudus knocked back, apparently, with West Ham United holding firm on their evaluation for the Ghanaian forward. Is there anyone on the panel who does not want to pursue Kudus? Just quickly, Dave, I didn't even know that we did actually submit a bid. I thought it was just kind of talks between the club and agent.
Well, according to a journalist on Twitter, Spurs put in a bid and it was knocked back. I don't know how true it is. I'm wondering if it's one that was put out on any other day with other rumors would it even surface.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's out there.
It's all we have.
Our thumbs. We want to speak to the fans.
Breadcrumbs.
I'm going to mute my mic because my neighbor's turned into Bob the Builder for the last 20 minutes. So give me a minute.
No, it's breadcrumbs at the minute with the Spurs IT case. But take it away. Let's go to Dermatron. I don't know if we have Dermatron on last time. Dermo, you're also our man who likes to pay attention to the news sources and the rumors. I mean, what do you make of the Mohamed Kudus rumors? Do you believe them much? And are you excited by a Kudus transfer?
I am, because I think I was speaking to Dave about it yesterday, and Dave said to me, which I never thought.
Dermo, you sound like you're underwater, lad. You need to plug your mic in.
Thank you. Hang on. Let me sort that out.
How's that? Is that better?
Sounds a bit better.
That's better, Donald.
Yeah, is that better? Cheers, Dave. Sorry. I was speaking to Dave about it yesterday, and he said he causes mischief in the middle, and I think that's what we've been missing. And I think Dave was spot on about that. Look, I've been hearing what I got told last night that we are going to put here in a package of 60 million could be enough to get the deal done. Now, I don't think when I read about 50-50 plus 5 add-ons, I got that this afternoon. I don't think that's the right amount. I think we're actually going to put the full 60 million in. He's already agreed. He's happy with the package he's getting with the personal terms. So it's about the clubs making the deal at the moment. So, I mean, what I was told, just find it. I think it was it's a 5-year contract, June 2030, a package worth 8 million per season. So that's around 155,000 pound a week. So that's around the pay structure of Tottenham, what they're looking around. And it's around, I think 60 million will get it done. I think that's what they're paying. I think that's what they go for. I think we will get him in. Eze isn't dead yet. Just because everyone's putting out Eze's going to Arsenal, we're still in the hunt. We're still in the hunt for Eze. Now, I know I said, and put this out in there, I said it was 95% going through. Well, there's always that 5% chance a deal can fall through. We know what football's like. Nobody's ever certain until we get to here we go. But if we put all that hard work in, why are we letting other clubs pick up the tail end of it? Be good enough and big enough to complete these deals and get them over the line. So it's been a frustrating one. It's been very quiet. And I've never known it to be this quiet. So we just have to wait and see. But Kudus, yeah, I'll take him all day long. I think he adds something different to our midfield. And then maybe does that put Brennan Johnson sort of out as well? Because he does play in Brennan Johnson's side of the pitch. So do you move Brennan Johnson somewhere else as well? So it opens up a can of worms or questions where we could play him.
Well, does anyone feel differently about Kudus? Does anyone kind of want to say no, thank you?
No, not really. But just to add on to what I have heard today from a West Ham fan, a friend of mine. Well, they've turned around and said that we put in a 55 million bid, and it was rejected. And 60 should get it over the line, like Dermo said. But to be honest, I would take that all day long. But I just don't want to see Brennan Johnson in this squad anymore. I'm sick and tired of seeing Brennan Johnson. He
the
can't
league top
run
scorer,
at
though, Ryan. The league top scorer, though, Ryan. I mean, surely he deserves another season
no.
to see what he can do.
No, I'm sick and tired of hearing that.
Would argue otherwise, though.
I would, yeah, because I'm sitting here gobsmacked, jaw hit the ground, mouth open. The man who scored the winning goal for a competition you didn't want us to win. You didn't even want to watch Tottenham. You didn't want to see us win anything. And he pops up and scores the winning goal. Brennan Johnson's as our leading top goal scorer. He's not everyone's cup of tea. But he's been a hell of a lot better than what some of them have been. And you can sit there and shake your head all you like. He's in his first season, he got more goals and contributions than I think second in the Tottenham team. Last season, he was our top goal scorer of the league. He actually got goals more than any other player, and he scored the winner in the Champions League final, in the Europa League final. So look, you can snag them off all you want. Brennan Johnson's not everyone's cup of tea, but do not tell we can't do without him when he is a better player than some of the other players we've had.
Was that not essentially why we're signing someone like Kudus to oust him out of the 11?
Thank you.
I think Kudus can play anywhere in the front three. So Kudus can play in the left, he can play in the middle, and he can play in the right.
I'd make the argument his best work is through the middle.
Yeah, I do too. So he could be brought in to give Maddison a push. But don't be sagging off Johnson. Don't be sagging off Johnson just because he's got this. He done a lot more last season than some of them other players did. He got in there. He was in the right place at the right time. And a lot of players didn't do that last season.
See, but this is where I get really irked, right? And at this point, who's got a bike going off in their background? I just heard a bike go off. But no, I don't like Johnson. Kudus is an upgrade on Johnson, and we can have Kudus out on the right and Eze through the middle. Simple. Get rid of Johnson altogether. And get rid of Solomon as well. Get rid of Richarlison. Just get rid of them all. I'm sorry. Literally, we've got too many wingers on that left-hand side. Get rid of most of those. Get rid of Johnson. Have Kudus. And we could coop some money back into the club and get more funds for better players.
Is it okay to leave the goal line bar right now?
Sorry?
Are we okay to keep the goal line bar?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we can keep that. We can keep the corner flags, and we can keep the stadium as well, and we can keep the manager, and the backroom staff and a few players. But get rid of most. I want to see, right on that left-hand side next year. I want to see either Jamie Donnelly or a Mikey Moore.
So you want to get rid of Brennan Johnson, Sonny, Kulusevski. I just need to keep track of what we also said last time. Solanke as well.
Go on. Yep, go on.
No, just, if you get the point here, you're trying to sell pretty much all the most highest performing players from last season.
Well, Solanke's was not a high performing player last season.
He had the most goals of anyone in the Europa League for our team.
The Europa League, it was an easy run to the final, apart from one team. Come on, are we still going to be listening?
We're the competition
what
winners.
was easy about
we're the competition winners. It doesn't matter if you think it was easy or not. We're the team that won it, and he was the one who had the most goals in the Europa League. I would even say Solanke didn't even have. I would say Solanke didn't have a tremendous season, but surely he didn't have a season that's worth getting rid of the guy for. Same thing with Brennan Johnson. As much as I have slated the guy, for the past 2 seasons that he's been at the club, Dermotron is right. His first season, second most goal contributions out of anyone in the Premier League. Then in his second season, the most goal contributions, I think, in terms for most goals scored in the Premier League, but goal contributions, he was like 3rd or 4th. But the guy, the numbers, even though I think the seeing eye test says something a bit different about him, the numbers do speak for themselves, with some of these guys. Same thing with Sonny. Sonny, you said Sonny's off the pace, but Sonny's been our highest goal contributor for the past 3 or 4 seasons.
Yes, Sonny is off the pace, but I'm looking for competition for Kudus and Johnson.
You can't be saying you're looking for competition if you're trying to get rid of all the guys. Then it means you're just bringing in whole new players.
I'm trying to clear out all the deadwood. There's a difference. There's deadwood, and then there's players that are actually deserving to be there. Mikey Moore deserves to be there. Phillips deserves to be there. The guy that's just come in, who's at centre back, who's the one that we got from the Swedish league or wherever he is, he deserves to be there. A lot of these young players.
Ryan, I think you're single-handedly trying to relegate the club.
I get what you're trying to say, Ryan, and I do understand what you're trying to say, but I think the point that maybe Jack is trying to get across is that you can't sell everybody. If you're trying to create competition, you've got to improve the first 11. That way, the players in that first 11 sort of go into squad roles. And then, that's how you create your competition. But you're not going to create that by selling everybody. But equally, the likes of Mikey Moore, I think a lot of fans would agree with you. Want him to be kept around, the likes of Bergman and stuff. But you're not going to win titles or trophies with them at the end of the day. You know what I mean? You still have to have that experience, and you still have to have a couple of players ahead of them in them positions. And at the end, it's up to them to drag themselves to that level if given the opportunity.
Yeah, I'd still keep Maddison though, Dave. I would keep Maddison. I love Maddison. I'm not saying I'm getting like whatever turns you on kind of thing with Maddison, but I like Maddison. Do you know what I mean? Maddison's still got some sort of quality, but he also needs competition. And I think someone like Eze would bring decent competition to Maddison. Is Maddison better than Eze? I don't think he is, but he is still one. He would be having good competition with Eze being there. And personally, the reason why I say I don't want Brennan Johnson is because he's a tapping merchant, and I don't want a tapping merchant.
I agree with you.
I don't know about that, Ryan. I absolutely love Gary Lineker. and he was attacking. He was attacking.
Do you know what on that Rain, man? Though the thing is, Gary
There's a
Lineker
lot
was
of
a striker.
strikers.
Johnson's a right
Sorry,
winger.
Dave.
Thank you.
You know, and this is where I do agree with Ryan on, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is where I sort of do agree with Ryan is Brennan Johnson is a bit of a tapping merchant. And don't get me wrong, it's a skill, but that's the skill you want from your striker and not your right winger. Your right winger still has to be able to get on the ball, create a half a yard, you know, and deliver that devastating quality, you know. And Johnson does lack that. We do need to bring in a player that can give us that out on that right-hand side.
But Johnson isn't a right winger.
Sorry, I'm going to agree with Matt Barden and with Dermo. I don't think he's a right winger. Look,
But he's played there his whole career.
The amount of times I sat in the stands, right, and turned to one of my neighbours and went, "My God, he's lazy." For Johnson, just every single game, lazy. His little jogs that he does drives me absolutely potty. But this is where I come down on Johnson. I'll weigh in on Kudus in a second.
Yeah.
On Johnson, bring it back to Kudus because that's where we started. On Johnson, I think last year we saw the best and the worst of Johnson, and the best of him is exactly what Dermot's describing. He is in old-fashioned 4-4-2 money. He would have been the second striker. He would have been the striker who gets in the box, feeds off the big man, or feeds off his partner, and finishes the goals. That's what he would be doing. Now we don't play. Nobody plays football like that anymore. But that's where he would fit. But last season we had him as an out and out right winger on the touchline, supposed to be as wide can be, and supposed to be coming and tracking back. He can score goals. He's not a tracking back type of player, right? So play him to his strengths. Look what we got out of him last season in a position that I think we can all agree did not suit him, right? If he's played in a frank inside forward position, I think you'll get a lot more out of him.
What is just Rayman, just as a follow-up on inside forward, what really is an inside forward? Because when I think of that, I think of someone who cuts inside, you know, sort of creates opportunities for themselves, plays in those sort of half spaces, right, in the inside of the pitch. And Johnson, to me, doesn't seem like he's technically good enough to take it past players in the inside of the pitch. Like, you wouldn't play him in midfield because he's not intricate enough on the ball. He's not delicate enough on the ball to, receive it on the half turn, take it past someone, play a little slip ball, in behind the back line. That's what I think of when I think of an inside forward. But
I think of it in terms of channels, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
So he was very much in Ange's system, right? However you may think of it, in Ange's system, the wide forward, which is what Sonny and Johnson traditionally play from the edge of the penalty area to the touchline. That's where they should play. They should get down the line. They should cut in. That's a classic. That's what Ange wanted them to do all the time. For me, an inside forward plays from the penalty, the edge of the penalty area to the penalty spot, and plays in that channel. And the outside is where you have a classically not inverted fullback overlapping around the outside. In our case, Pedro Porro. Mm-hmm. So in that type of system where it's only 10 yards, but 10 yards makes a massive difference on a football pitch. Moving Johnson from over there to inside the box means that he's no longer taking players on one-on-one. He's getting intricate little details with other teammates, and that's where he delivered. So
doesn't he still have to track back though, even as an inside forward? Because especially with Frank's teams, we see them like a lot of times, they put almost every player behind the ball, and they do sort of work very hard as a unit, as a team. So even if he's an inside forward, he would still have to track back, which I think earlier you said he's not. It's not in his game.
Not quite so much, Jack, because if you think of it, right, so the wide man in Ange's system is the forward. They're the ones who are going wide. So there's an onus, and the fullback is the player who's coming inside and playing as that sort of dual 8, effectively, where they're inverting. So the onus when the ball comes back, yes, the fullback has to track back, the fullback has to come back, but because Johnson is already wide, the onus, there's much more onus on him to provide support, on him to provide that backup, and that's why we saw him doing this. It used to drive me. It's going to drive me potty this season as well. The little joggy thing, right? But he will be more protected with a fullback who is staying wide, who is always going to be there on his outside, and Johnson's main role is getting in that box.
I hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying, but for me, that Porro and Johnson right hand side can't go again next season. You know, I get in terms of, you know, some of the goals that Johnson produced out of that. But looking at him out goals, it cost us one way or another. You know, there's no relationship there where they're working back, talking to each other. You take this guy, I'll roam with this guy. You know what I mean? There's none of that down that side. And it's a great, you know, Thomas Frank can come in and he can, you know, bring a defensive structure around the set pieces, improve us there, put that CDM in front of the two centre-backs, protect us that way. But what he can't do is make Johnson and Porro a better unit. You know, it's way too costly. And for me, if you're going to fix that, you fix right wing, you don't fix right back because of what Porro gives you. Porro is more technically better than Brennan Johnson. So, you know, with Brennan Johnson, I actually think it's at a point now because at the end of the day, we can say, oh, he's an inside forward. A good player can play inside forward or on the wing, if you will, depending on what the manager wants to achieve that day, you know. And ideally, that's the sort of caliber of players we need to strive to get to in this squad. You know, you look at someone like James Maddison, you know, everyone going, oh, he's a number 10. He's not supposed to track back and get stuck in. But last season, he fucking done it. A good player can do multiple facets of the game, you know, and I think at times we are guilty of making too many excuses. Oh, they should play just this role and that role. And we've done it with like Harry Winks, you know, oh, but he's not a guy that gets round in midfield and tackles. It's like, yeah, but I grew up in an era where they could pass and tackle, you know what I mean? No, regardless of the size. And I think we make too much excuses sometimes. I do think there has to be recognition on Brennan Johnson's behalf. He has to get better at taking players on. He has to learn to cross the ball. He has to get fitter so that he can get up and down that wing. You know, that's the role of the job at the end of the day. And until he can prove that, there's always going to be conversations around should we improve. But right now, if you're looking to improve that right-hand side and get a better relationship down there, personally, he's the one that I would replace in the team. And look, I'm not saying sell him, you know, keep him around next season. And, you know, he was good off the bench the season before for Postecoglou. But he's just not a starter for Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah. Sean's saying that if we actually brought in Kudus, he'd be threatening his starting spot in America, and there would be a meritocracy there. Maybe he wouldn't be as lazy if he wasn't starting, I guess, week in, week out like he was, you know, before. So is Kudus being brought in, Rain Man and others? Is he being brought in to compete with Johnson or to compete with someone else?
Well, I think I just want to come back.
Yeah, follow up. Yeah,
I do agree that, you know, that. I used to tweet, you know, oh my God, it's Johnson plus Porro. You can't have both of them.
Yeah.
Right? You can't have both of them. But I think in particular, you can't have both of them when you don't have a good six. Because that's what a good six does. It provides that screening when you're in attack. Mm-hmm. It provides that. So it's not a 2-body problem, it's a 3-body problem. Mm-hmm. And we had Porro inverting. We had Johnson staying out wide, which he's not good at. He's just, we can say he should be able to do this, but all us old men know that some people are just good at things and some people are good at other things, and these players, you have to find the right places for them to play. He played out wide. That's not his best position. It really isn't. We need a 6 to help support it, but I do think that we'd get more out of Johnson as an inside forward rather than a classic wing.
I just need to, I think it's interesting. I feel like my understanding of just inside forward was just, someone who almost plays a bit off the striker almost like a Dele Alli, type of guy, that's almost playing in those half spaces, maybe makes runs beyond, the back line, like Johnson is very good at that, to be fair, right? There's so many players nowadays that just want the ball to feet and don't make those runs in behind. Johnson does have that knack to do that, but I just maybe need to do my own tactical sort of research on maybe
There's
it's all
ways
just
of
different
playing the inside.
definitions. It's all different definitions.
There's different
terms
ways
and
of
stuff.
playing the second striker to a degree. Like you have the Dele Alli role, like you said, where it's central. He makes runs in behind the actual main striker, and then you've got ones where you can play inside forwards off the wing. Like there's different roles, to be able to create different forwards. But are we ruling out as well on this panel that Kulusevski returning out wide under Thomas Frank?
Yeah, where is Kulu going to play?
Look, right, Dave. The first thing is, right, just going back onto what Ryan said. Porro can play in midfield in that right mid. He can't track back, fair enough. He can't defend, fair enough, but he can go forward and rip him. Sorry, go on, Dave.
Yeah. Can I ask though, what evidence have we got to say Porro can play a right winger? Because
he can attack.
I understand what you're saying, but like playing right winger, it's a complete different game as well. It's not just as easy as going play a right winger. You've got to keep an eye on making sure your timing of the runs are perfect and stuff. Whereas Porro coming up from right back, he doesn't have to, which means he can get on the ball and just start spraying and dictating. It's different. Like I'm just wondering what evidence do we have to say Porro can play a right wing, because I've heard this with other players at Tottenham Hotspur before, and it's like, well, if you're asking them to do this, they're either shit and they can't do their original position, bin them off and sell them, or if you've got a problem in that position, go and sign a player that is for that position.
But then, Dave, that we don't need to sign another one, because what we heard all last season, that Spence was very good.
But
he wasn't.
That's
why you have Porro move upwards to the right mid and then attack and cross balls in it, and he will attack a man better than Johnson. So let's bin Johnson off. Let's forget about him. Have Kudus.
Spence can't play 60 games, mate. Spence can't play 60 games.
Yeah.
Right.
You need
you can't just have 11 players. Yeah. And the harsh reality of the world is that these players are on a contract, and there is absolutely no way that we're set. There is not a chance that we're selling Johnson. However much we would bill it, it's just the reality of the world is that isn't happening 2 years into a 5 or 6 year contract. It's just not happening.
But then, where do we play him then? Where the hell do we play him? Because he can't even get up front, let alone on the right mid.
I think the question was where we're going to play Kulu.
Yeah.
And I think Kulu for me.
Well, then, okay,
hang on. I mean, Kulu for me can either play in the middle, on the right. Kulu, we have to find a place for Kulu. It's important we do, because Kulu, most part of last season, was our best player. No question about that. Maddison wasn't there all the time. Players didn't turn up all the time. Kulu did turn up all the time. I think you pay him he played well in the middle. I think he's better in the middle than he is out wide. I think you get more effectiveness out of Kulu in the middle. Do I think James Maddison is... Sorry, Dave, go on. Sorry, man.
No, sorry, I was just no, sorry, you finished, because I want to sort of throw that back to Jack. Does he think Kulu's better inside or as a winger? Because Jack has a huge problem with his end product. Now, I just would wondering, with Jack, who has huge problems with his end product, where he sees him actually, but finish what you were saying. Sorry, Dermo.
And just very quickly, that I just think you would get more of an effect at Kulu in the middle, because I don't think Maddison was very productive last year. I don't think he did show up all the time.
Like 21 or 22 goal contributions. Look, I'm not Maddison's biggest fan, but it's not bad contribution from a centre midfielder.
It's not bad, but he didn't show up where Kulu did show up. And I think Kulu's a better in the middle than Maddison. But look, I think his time as a winger is gone. I think he will improve as a number 10 or a second striker, but that's just my opinion. I'm sure Jack is more the technician than I am. He knows more about it than me. So I suppose he's going to school me now where Kudus
No,
should play.
I think on Maddison, I think you're right that Kulusevski carried us for a good portion of the first part of the season, but I think almost Maddison picked up from Kulu for the second half of the season. Because you think of those Europa League games, Eintracht Frankfurt, Bodo Glimt, I think Maddison, those were our most important games of the season. And I think of Maddison as probably the best player, over some of those games, and he did score and contribute big goals, during that period. But that was when Kulusevski, I think, was injured. So it's almost like they picked off each other. And I'm pretty sure Maddison finished on almost more goal contributions than Brennan Johnson did, despite playing like 900 fewer minutes. So I think that would be a tad harsh on him. With Kulusevski, I wonder if and people should honestly come in on this, I wonder if he's a bit like a Kai Havertz, where like you want him in the team, but you don't even know exactly where his best position is, and it more is maybe depending on the opponent or like what's needs be. Like maybe you have an injury somewhere, you can plug him into a different position. Yes, it might not be ideal, but he can do a job. And like Kai Havertz, he's big, he can hold up the ball, he knows how to carry the ball as well, has a bit of that creativity about him where he can pick out a pass or he can sort of pull off some trickery that can create a goal or create a moment. But then like Kai Havertz does, Kai Havertz works really hard, for the team. He's a guy that just sort of presses, does a lot of the unselfish work and all those things I just mentioned there. I feel like Kulusevski does, right? He carries you up the pitch, takes it past players, works hard for the team, can plug in left wing, even striker if need be. I think, in my opinion, I think he would be, if he improved his finishing, I think he'd actually be a pretty decent hold up play type of striker. And then if needs be, he can play on the right wing. If needs be, he can play centrally. He just seems like he's a bit like a Kai Havertz to me. And there's a reason why Arsenal love Kai Havertz, because he does that role where he can just play a ton of different positions.
I think Kulu's also got a couple of tricks on him. The number of times he breaks out of a press and moves forward. Let's nail this on the head. The frustration with Kulu is the one-dimensionality of switching back onto his left foot every single time when he's on that right-hand side, which is why coming into the middle feels better, because it takes away that predictability that he's just going to go down, he's going to switch back onto his left foot. I know it. Everybody everybody watching TV knows it, and if we all know it, then the damn players who he's coming up against know it, right?
Do you know what it is, though, man, right? I completely agree with you on that.
Wait a minute. Yeah. But I would argue that some of his best performances have been at right wing, like Man City. He was absolutely immense down that right-hand side, running, keeping the ball.
Maddison's goal.
Yeah, absolutely. He was just incredible. They could not knock him. You can see why there's so many rumors that Pep loves him, because he destroyed them that day. So it's a real sort of paradox that I want him to play inside, but I don't think he's more effective there than Maddison, and his best performances appear to be on the right wing.
Do you think he just doesn't have the pace or the agility? Because there are some very one-footed right wingers. You think of like Salah, Aaron Robben right up the pass. But like, is it just because they had that step? They had that agility. That even if you knew where they were going, there was not a whole lot you could do about it. Or what's the difference there?
I look at Kulu more of a Moussa Dembele type player. I think Rayman's spot on. He's very predictable on the left foot. He's either got two things, he can go and work on that right foot, but to be honest with you, he's such a big guy, and I think you're right, Jack, with the sort of agility compared to like your Robin and stuff like that, even if he does go to use his right foot, it's going to be awkward, For me, like I do take what Rayman's saying, but you can almost be like a Moussa Dembele type, where it's just you have your one trick, but you're that big, you're that strong, you're that quick over a couple of yards that you just blow by these guys, you know what I mean? So... Yeah.
It's not like Moussa Dembele used his right foot actually even that much. He was pretty left foot dominant.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I look at Kulu. Similar body type, similar body shape. What is he good at? Getting on that ball, breaking the line, and bursting through people. So you can still just be one-footed, but just focus on, nailing down that aspect. Make sure you're in the gym, getting yourself nice, big and strong, and stuff like that, protecting the ball, nail down what you're good at, concentrate what you're good at, and it can come super, super effective. But with Kudo, I sort of do agree with Ray, man. I do sort of think, his best performances have come at right wing, but I would argue I'd like to see him at left wing given a shot. Traditional winger, get him on that ball, let him burst by his man on the outside, and let him put that ball in the box.
Okay, then. So you've just answered the question. So then, where about that right hand side? Then, if you prefer him out there, that's fine. So then you got Kudus out there as your starter. You got Kudus as your backup
through the middle.
Well,
I'd like to see Kudus through the middle.
Well, I'd say out on the wing, but then that's where I think we can kind of agree and disagree a little bit, Dave. But I think he's better out on the wing, but still, right? But then we've got Kudus out on the wing, right? And then we have Kulu out there as backup, but not as backup, as competition. So then it comes back to the same question again. And Rayman cannot answer the same question that I've asked about 5 times.
Right, ask
Where
it again.
does Johnson play? He doesn't. Simple. We have Kudus and we have Kulusevski out there.
What's the question?
Where does Brennan Johnson play when
No,
you've got
Brennan
Kulusevski and
Johnson-
you've also got Kudus?
Brennan Johnson plays as a right inside forward. Does anybody expect Frank to play with inverted fullbacks this kind of thing? No. So we're expecting the fullbacks to, whether we play with 3 at the back or 2 with 3 centre backs or 2 centre backs, we are expecting the fullbacks to stay wide. In which case, we're expecting our wide forwards, because you can have a 9 and then you have 2 wide forwards, wide players. We're expecting them to play a little bit further in the pitch, and that's where I'd expect Johnson to play. I would argue that might suit Kulu better as well, because if he cuts back into his left foot there, he's that much closer to doing, and Sonny, quite frankly, if I could be brutally honest, to do one of those curling shots into the far corner, on their left or their right foot. What's the matter, Rainer?
No, Son's not going to be here by the beginning of the season, so get that one out of it.
You don't know that, Brian. You don't know that.
It doesn't really matter.
And it's all right.
It doesn't really matter. The question was, where is Johnson going to play? And the answer is as an inside forward. I
agree with Rayman. I agree with you. I think that's where they will play. And look, I think Sonny gets so much disrespect. He is a legend of the club. He's been here for over 10 years. He was our captain and lifting our first European trophy in 41 years. A trophy you didn't want us to win. A trophy you didn't even want to watch. And plenty of times you came on last season, I'm not watching them. I was there from every game. Day in, game out. I went through all the games, every watch along. I didn't miss one. I missed 2 because I was unwell. And I was there through the good times and bad times. Sonny is a legend. Sonny gets so much disrespect from people. It is unreal. That man stayed with us through thick and thin, and he was there to reap his rewards. He's been given an extra year. I want Sonny there next year. A, for his experience. B, to help the young South Korean lad settle in at Tottenham and let him and pass on some wisdom onto him. And also pass some of his wisdoms onto other people. But it's down to Sonny. If Sonny wants to leave, it's down to him. He's earned the right to decide what he does. Either leave or stay. It's not down to me, you, Dave, Jack, or anyone else. He's earned the right to stay because he's been there through it all for the last 10 years. Good times and bad times. And he's earned the right. And I agree with Tron. Sorry.
No, it's going to be, I do have to, Ryan, I have to cut across you because I do have to get to some of these milestones. No, Dermotron, I completely agree. I've said this before, I'd give him the Mark Noble role, but we'll get back to that in just a sec. Dan Berbatov's halftime smoke, the Bulgarian smoker, becoming an elite member. Thank you very much, my man. That's very generous. We'll find ways, to get back to you guys, the elite members, because it is really, really generous.
Dan's a good winger. Considering we're looking for a winger, he's a good winger.
He can cross the ball, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, my man. Hennessy, member for 31 months, getting to that 30-month club. Appreciate you, brother. Saying, evening, gents. Hope the panel and the fans are all well. Loving the hair, Dave, lad. Got a first in my dissertation, and it's getting published. Bosh. Come on,
Get
son.
in there.
Damn, dude.
No, fair play to Hennessy. He's been at this for a number of years now, and he's put a lot of effort into it and a lot of time as well while trying to follow Tottenham Hotspur. So fair play, Hennessy. Congratulations. And go and let loose, like in the name. Go and have some of that, my man. You'll feel good after it.
Should we start calling you Dr. Hennessy?
Could call him Dr. Hennessy. Yeah, that's good.
We got a doctor in the house.
Thank you on the comment for the haircut, lad. I do appreciate it. I feel like I'm getting a few nice comments lately. I feel like I'm having a mini glow up in my 30s. That's a bit weird.
Yeah, fresher in the 30s. Thank you so much, Mr. Doctor. We got a doctor in the house. And then Eltel Cockerell, good to see you, saying, going to Spurs Stadium tomorrow. 50 Cent and Mary J. Blige. What a combo.
I love 50 Cent. Love him.
What a combo, though. Very eclectic. And then he's saying, going to help with the coffers for the transfer funds. Yeah. Buy as many beers as you can. Eltel, leaving needs all the help you can get. Bucket. Yeah. There were some other questions. Matt Barden saying Kulusevski is at his best, carries the ball brilliantly, can play some clever passes, but the playmaking comes from Maddison. James Maddison is the only ball progressor in the current team, massively underrated. Iceman saying Kulusar and Matters, Benny and Kudus in the middle ain't a bad problem to have. No, I think the midfield, I'm actually pretty happy with the midfield depth, other than maybe like some people have brought up, just getting another deep lying sort of kind of defensive midfielder, to come into the team seems like the right move. And then Stefan Blois, good to see you, sir. I've had you on some fan shows in the past. Would love to have you back on here. And he's saying, still wearing my Tottenham shirt with absolute pride every time I leave the house. Let's go into this season as European champions. Listen, man, it's a Hotspur summer. But as always, we have to cover the transfers, and we're looking to kick on, this next season. And Spurs just haven't been doing that at the minute, Stefan. But we'd love to have you back with us. I think you contributed a lot, to the fan shows when you were here with us. And I'm pretty sure you have some opinions on Romero, so we'd love to have you on. And then Bulgarian Smoker saying Ryan out. Ryan, you want to get rid of Johnson, Sonny, Kulusevski, and maybe even, the goal line bar, like Dave was saying. Or actually, no, you wanted to keep the goal line bar.
Wants to get rid of Burger Grill.
Yeah.
No,
get rid of the kimchi bowls.
I just wanted to get back to what Dermo was saying, right? Because just before I do, Dermo, right? Bulgarian Smoker, I'm never leaving, mate. I'm always gonna be here, my man.
Yeah,
come on, and have a debate on my
Bring it
I'm
on.
not fucking leaving.
Go on.
I'm not fucking leaving.
No, but
Thank you, Dan. Though very generous.
But do you know what though, right? I just don't think that Sonny's he hasn't got the legs anymore, Dermo. Like he hasn't got the legs. I just can't see how he's going to be. I can't see how he's going to be there next year.
Should we not be applying the same logic that was sort of applied around Harry Kane, that you got to recoup money?
Yeah.
Can't let the guy retire at the club. Plenty of people say that around Harry Kane, and he was younger.
No, Dave, I'm hearing, even in the chat, you can see it. I'm seeing all of the same stuff that people said about Harry Kane. Let him go. He's going to go out. It's up. I'm not with any of this. I think the problem with Heung-min's son, and he's definitely lost pace. He's definitely lost a couple of seconds off his reaction times. But I think the massive problem with Heung-min's son last season, won't come as any surprise, was he was played as a wide winger. And he has played all his career as an inside forward. He has played all his career in that channel, collecting the ball from Harry Kane or whoever, turning, step over, right foot shot into the top right-hand corner. How many of those did we see that Conte season where he got the golden boot against Norwich? That was his golden boot winning goal, if I remember rightly. Was a curling shot into into the top corner of the goal. That is a Sonny goal, and Sonny cannot deliver that from either a 9, where he's supposed to be holding up the ball, or a wide play. People may say, "Well, he's a footballer." Well, it's about where you play them. You would never play Sonny as a centre back, ever, even in his best days. You wouldn't play Messi as a centre back. Players suit certain positions, and I think I was a big fan of what Ange was doing, but I really do think that in this day and age, and with the players that we've got, a lot of the players that we've got are going to be better suited for the wingers to be firstly inverted, but also playing closer in, and for the fullbacks to stay wide and overlap them, and for us to have a more supportive central midfield with either 1 or 2 6s.
I do feel like Sonny was probably one of the more consistently creative of maybe the wingers last season, but I agree that my issue actually is I felt like lots of times he wasn't that willing to make those runs in behind. He seemed like all the time he kind of just wanted the ball to feet, and then he would get doubled up on. And then when you're getting doubled up on in that scenario and you're not challenging the defender to track a run in behind, then you do become a bit more predictable and one-dimensional. And it felt like they just kind of left Brennan Johnson all on his own at the right side, and then they kind of just made sure that the left side, that creativity was just taken away or at least limited. But I mean, I'm fine with moving Sonny a bit more not centrally, but a bit more in that inside sort of zone or that flank, to see if he is willing to make runs in behind, because that's what we know he's the best at, is that he times the runs really well. Even if he's lost a yard of pace, he still looks like he's decently quick, enough, to time his runs, to be devastating. And last season, maybe another slight issue in his game was, there were a couple of games where we could have won it if he had that finish on him. He didn't seem to be, the best of the finishers, even though him and Harry Kane are probably arguably the 2 best finishers I've ever seen, maybe at the club, to be honest, maybe up there with Gareth Bale as well, in terms of actually putting away chances on a regular basis. And last season, I felt like, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I felt like there were a lot of chances he actually spurned, last year that we could have won games with.
The problem is, selling Harry Kane, we were trying to get away from being reliant on one player. We're more reliant on one player than ever before. If we started bringing in the likes of, if we brought in, say, Eze and Kudus, they can burden some of that weight. So then you can spare Sonny, and then that way you're picking and choosing the games for him, and it's not new here. Sir Alex Ferguson used to do it with Ryan Giggs. Used to say to him, look, I've got a game coming up 3 weeks down the line. I need you 100% fit for that game. That's your focus. Be ready. Giggs come in, do a job. Help the team take over and stuff like that. That's where other players can pick up the burden. Like, that was in theory what we were supposed to do by signing, Johnson and all these other players, but they're not picking up enough of the slack. And you need more quality, you need better quality players to be able to do that. And if you do that, then you can keep Son fresh, and that way you might actually get a lot more out of him. If we're looking at Son to go and play another 60 games next year, well, then I probably would cash in and look to go and reinvest that. But if we bring in players and be able to sort of, pick and choose these games and pick and choose these minutes and manage these minutes, because you've got to remember he's 33 years of age. It comes a point where you do have to start managing these minutes. Then I'm okay with keeping him around. At the end of the day, Dermot's right. It is his choice what he wants to do. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure Daniel Levy will want some sort of money back, before Son retires.
He operates that way. Yeah. He wanted some money out of the Harry Kane situation. He might want some out of the Sonny situation. Dermotron, I think you said you need
Daniel Levy wants and whatever Daniel Levy would do. If it was, I make you right. If it was me, I would be having that conversation with Sonny. Look, your time's going to be limited next season. We're going to manage your minutes. You're not going to start. Do not expect to start every game. Yeah. I'm going to give you that expectation right here, right now, and don't be surprised when we come up. But I still see you as a very important player. Now, if you're not on board with this, then yes, we can let you go and then take it, because the reality is we do need to sell players. And, however much we say sell this player, sell that player, there's only certain players who other people are.
The thing is, though, Ray, man,
the other clubs are actually going to come in and sign. Sonny is one of those players. If Sonny was on the transfer market another club would give us money for him.
Just on that though, quickly, Ray, man, like everyone's saying like we have to sell players. Not necessarily. Like a lot of our squad is made up of younger members. Or like we got a pretty young squad. There is a case where we can sign players and say to the likes of Tel, yeah, we paid 30 million for you, but you're going out to develop. Same with Udabar. Do you know what I mean? We don't have to sell players to create room in this squad. We can literally just turn around to some of the younger members and go out on loan. You know, we're going into the Champions League. You know, we need to up the quality of this squad. You're not quite ready. Off you go on loan. It's okay to do that.
Now, Dave, can I just say something, right?
We do have to let Dermotron go, though. So, Dermot, I mean, you said in the private chat you need to go unless you can stay a few minutes.
That's grand. You're grand. Listen, just very quickly, I think I'm only 18 away from 2,100, so I'd like to get there before the start of the season. And please look at the podcast me and Dave did on Tuesday. It's a new podcast me and Dave have put together, Irish Lad Talk Spurs. So please give that a look. It's very interesting. We're going to keep it going through the season. But thanks again for having me on, lads. It's always a pleasure. Big up to everyone. And I'll see you and Paul later on.
Yeah,
I don't know what I've let myself in for. I've let myself in for something.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, Dermo, you really have, mate. But do you know what? You said you were going to send me the link on my WhatsApp, didn't you?
I may do.
Okay. Oh, may do. Okay, cool.
I may do.
You two are acting like Vinay and Levy.
To send it to him.
Late night
You three are acting like Vinay and Levy.
Yeah. Right, on that
Bottle of
bombshell, I'm
Bordeaux.
definitely going. See you later. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.
All righty. See you, Tron. Great job as always. Were
So,
we still
yeah,
in that
so-
sunny conversation, or do we want to move on to something else?
Well,
I
it
was
seems like we were.
actually going to move on, and I was going to say about Richarlison, actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to go on and say he needs to go, and the only way I would have Tel still at this club next year, or should I say this year? Should I say? No. I'm talking about an old season like we've just ended this
You only
season.
have to pay 30 million for the guy right now.
Oh yeah, it'll be second season now. But I think if the only way I would have Tel play this season would be if Richarlison goes and he plays up front. I don't know how good he'll be up front. I can't tell you.
If who plays up front? Sorry.
Tel
Mm-hmm.
with
I think we got a few glimpses
with,
of him up front last
Ronaldo.
season, though, right? And he didn't really take him. He actually looked better on the wing.
Yeah, but Jack, he didn't play with. He was playing in silly Ange ball style, and he wasn't having Solanke up front with him. This year, we've got Thomas Frank, and I would love to see a partnership of Solanke and Tel, but that's the only way I will accept having Tel at this club.
Ryan, I would love to see your FIFA career mode and just see how many players you end up getting rid of, and then by like mid-season, all of your guys' fitness are at like the yellows and the reds, going to every game because you only have 10 players. You might even get yourself banned, because they'll say, listen, you have to be able to field 11 players, and you've sold the entire team.
No, I bring in about the billion pounds and just sell the old bloody squad and bring in old new players who have actually got quality, like the Mbappes and the Lemmy Yamals and things like that. But that's not what we're here about anyway.
Paul,
but do you know
Paul,
what I mean?
it looks like, Paul, you've unmuted yourself. Are you able to come in here now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for
Is there
me,
anything you
this
wanted
might be a slightly different take to everybody else.
Go ahead.
Might be a slightly different take to everybody else, but for me, with Richie and Solanke, the amount of injuries we'd have over the last couple of seasons, we need another striker to come in, but we need those two to stay just in case we get hit again. We got potentially another 60 games coming this season. So why are we thinking of we have to sell a player to bring another player in? We should be looking at that's what cost us last season. We had no depth in this squad whatsoever. So surely we should be thinking of adding experienced players in to fill out this squad. Because if we don't, we'll be in big trouble. We're on about selling our two most experienced players in Romero and Son. Haven't we learned our lesson from Harry Kane?
Because the reality is that we do have to sell to buy. The reality is that
But what happened to this investment?
Dave's talking about sending Tell out on loan. That's actually creating a problem next season. Because if we send Tell out on loan, he's now on a 5-year contract. So he's here next year. Whatever anybody wants.
But if he goes out and develops, fuck Johnson.
Tell is here next year. So if we sign another player who is non-homegrown or even non-club trained, okay, and in that position, then next year we've got the same problem, but doubled. We have to solve.
Well, not really,
the
because next year
homegrown and club trained problem.
Not really, though.
Now we have to get real with the fact that you can't just have 30 players in a squad. You have to have the right amount of players, and then you have to trust that some of your younger players are good enough to supplement, hopefully, only 10 or 15% of the time that they're needed.
I disagree with you on. 1 second. I disagree with you on. I get what you're saying about you have the problem next season. Yeah, but the following season you're going to have players that you're going to end up selling on. You create space. Like we say we can't have this. Chelsea have it. Man City have it. They have a massive squad with players sent out on loan to develop and everything else. Why can't we have it at Tottenham? It's what elite clubs do.
See, that's what I would say. I was going to say, Dave, like, look at someone like Chelsea. They've got, like, God knows how many players in that squad, and they've loaned out, about 10, 15 of them and still got a big enough squad. So why can't Tottenham do it? Is it because Levy doesn't want to? Is it this same conversation again there where we go, oh, but Levy is penny pinching again? Like, I know me and Paul had a conversation before we both came on here, Dave. But like, my opinion is, right, even to this day, that Daniel Levy will not put his own hand in his pocket to bring in more players off his own back, and it's a shame because it just means he's trying to penny pinch money left, right, and centre just to try and save a few quid, and it's ridiculous in my opinion.
But you want to sell every player, but you're saying that Levy won't bring in anybody. So why would you sell all these players?
Why? Because half of them are deadwood, Jack. This is what I'm
but
saying.
if you're saying that Levy won't actually buy anybody, then why would you sell all the players that we already have?
Well, okay, yeah, that's a good point. But you got me there a little bit. But right, this is where I just want Levy to go out and spend and get rid of all this deadwood.
Ryan, you can't say he's not spent. He's spent 400 million in 2 seasons. We just spend it badly. So is that on Levy identifying these players, or is it the scouting network that are behind them that are saying to Levy, go and get this player and pay 60 million for Brennan Johnson, pay 40 million for Archie Gray, pay 60 million for Solanke?
Good point.
Levy's not going around sitting there watching football games all day going, let's go and get this player. He's obviously being recommended these players,
but
then he's overcharged for them.
But he hasn't always listened to his scouts. You go to like Sadio Mane, he was lined up to come to Tottenham. Daniel Levy didn't want to pay the fee or the way. It was either the wages or the fee and stuff like that. Daniel Levy does pretend to prefer the cheaper option. You go back to Harry Redknapp. Famously, he said he wanted who was it, Tevez and someone else, and they end up bringing in Ryan Nielsen and Louis Zaha or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, he does have a tendency to go for the cheaper option. So he's not like, we can sit here and say and put the blame on some of these scouts and DOS, but there's also been countless of stories where he doesn't listen to them.
The problem is,
I get that in the point where he done that.
The thing is, it's too consistent over too long a time period for it not to be a Levy problem. We can say it was Hitchin. We can say it was. I think Paratici went against the tide, right? But the reality is, it's gone on for too long for it not to be a club culture, which comes from the chairman and the CEO. Apart from the fact that Binay's taking it over now, the chairman and CEO for 20 years. That he set the club culture. And the club culture was to buy value players.
Yeah, but then, saying that, then if we're buying value, as you say, like he always goes for the cheaper option, Why would we spend 65 million on Solanke? Why would we spend 60 million on Johnson? That, to me, it just seems we've overpaid for players because they're English, and our homegrown quota was knackered, which
That's
is probably
true.
why they've been brought in, and we've paid for it.
I'll answer those two players, right?
He didn't go after homegrown as best as he could have, though, right? There was better options.
No,
out
of course
there
he didn't.
A bit more.
I'll answer those two
There
players.
was still the cheaper options in the homegrown market.
Solanke, whatever you think of him, was the best available. Like last summer was a striker desert. There was hardly any strikers, being available. And Solanke was kind of the best of the lot. Richarlison, I think they thought they were getting a deal. But we can say what we think of it, but I think they thought they were getting a deal at 6 million. Let's not forget that I think Everton had already paid 50 for him, and he'd had a pretty decent time at Everton. So they thought they were getting a deal. They thought they were getting a value deal out of Richarlison, just like they thought they were getting a value deal out of Ndombele, just like they thought they were getting a value deal out of Lo Celso. Well, they did. I think that's what I think they did. We can all agree they were wrong, but that's what I think they thought.
I want to come back at that theory where you said that Solanke was the best player out there at the time. No, he wasn't, because Ivan Toney was on the market.
We were never going to match the wages Saudi were offering him, though. Like, the sooner Saudi comes in for him and he wants to go, that one's off the table.
Yeah, you can't compete with Saudi.
I mean, he's on half a million.
The wages don't matter, though, mate. The wages don't matter because we got the money to actually fork out for it.
Not Saudi. not against Saudi.
If a player wants to play,
are you like living in the unicorn world or something, mate?
Me?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I'm the one in touch with reality here, Ryan. I'm not the one that wants to decimate the whole team.
Yeah, Saudi's the one paying for unicorns. They don't do that in the UK. They're in dreamland over there, man, with what they're paying players. You can't compete with the wages that they offer. You just can't. And also, it's a question of motivation as well. Like, if the player is going to Saudi, then he obviously is caring more about the wage packet than he really is about actually competing.
No, but I'm not saying that, Jack. What I'm saying is, though, right, what Ivan Toney was on at Brentford, right, we could easily have doubled his wage packet. Definitely. That's what I'm getting at here.
But we're saying we couldn't. Like, we cannot be paying someone $500,000 a week.
I'm good, Sean. I'm good, mate. Don't worry, I'm chilled, mate. It's a debate. It's not personal.
He's worried about your sugar intake.
There's no one in the Premier League that's being paid the wages that Ivan Toney is currently on. Not even like Mo Salah is on those wages.
Haaland's on it, I think. Haaland's on it.
I wouldn't know, but I'm pretty sure Ivan Toney, I would assume, is on like $400,000 a week or something like that.
No, but Jack, I'm talking about before he even moved to Saudi. That's my point. Last summer, before he moved to Saudi, we could have doubled his wage packet, and he was on the market. And then Ryan turning around saying that Solanke was the best thing on the market.
Yeah,
but
he went in the same summer that Solanke, so he clearly chose the bigger wage packet.
Ryan, I think I hear what you're saying. Like, as a player, Ivan Toney's probably a little bit, probably better than, certainly got more to his background than Solanke. I'm not defending the Solanke signing, by the way. I'm just saying I think he was the best available at the time. But you do have to remember that Toney didn't just go to Saudi Arabia because they were paying $500,000 a week for him. He also went to Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabian clubs were the only ones who were willing to take him after the couple of seasons he had at Brentford, where he had a really, really turbulent time.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
In terms of disciplinary. And I don't think any Premier League club was going to take that risk on him. Just like I think it's very, very unlikely that any other club is going to take a risk on signing Richarlison. I don't think that. I think we can say we want to sell him all we want, but the reality is, if you put your house on the market and nobody wants to buy it, you can't sell it. And it's the same with Richarlison. He spent so long injured in the last 18 months. I don't think that any other club is going to touch him.
They won't touch him for 60 million. I think some club will always take a gamble, but they're not going to pay the money that Levy will want to at least try and recruit for Richarlison to save face. I do agree with you. Where I do think Ryan has a little point, though, is like we could have went into the European market for a striker and broadened our selection and signed a homegrown player somewhere else in the squad. You know, we could have done it that way. You know, we sort of limited ourselves to the English market for strikers, but outside Harry Kane, it's a limited pool anyway. So it's sort of like, you know, we sort of put ourselves in that predicament to a certain degree. But
for me,
yeah, I don't disagree. I don't think we should have signed Dragusin. I think we should have, you know, I think we should have had a look.
Should never have re-signed Werner.
Never re-signed Werner. Yeah, absolutely. You know I mean? Yeah, absolutely. There was plenty of better ways to solve the problem than the way they solved it. I don't think Solanke is as bad a player as people are making him out.
No, I've warmed to him. I've really warmed to him. Jack knows I was really irked by the signing at the time, you know, and it was sort of like, I did say I thought it was a huge gamble, you know, in terms of it's one thing finishing at a club like Bournemouth where there's no pressure or expectancy on you, but it's a difference doing it at Tottenham Hotspur. However, in fairness to the guy, he has sort of, you know, worked these nuts off. You know, he's come to the fore in the big moments when we needed them to and stuff like that. So he's actually sort of one. I'm okay to give him another shot next season and get behind him and let's see what he can do. Maybe he can kick on, but I wouldn't mind. Look, I'm okay with Richarlison staying as well if that's the case and going with them two options next season to a certain degree. But if a bid does come in for Richarlison and he's gone, I'm genuinely okay trying to get in someone to come in here and compete with Solanke, because at the end of the day, having that competition, you know, will be healthy for both strikers. Yeah. And also, you know, we're going to be in a situation where it could be another 50 odd games next season, so you're going to have to rotate. So it'd be good to have two experienced options up there.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would have kept Richarlison around or bring in another striker, but then you do still have the likes, in my opinion, Kulusevski, if needs be. If you had both your strikers injured, he can play there. Technically, to a degree, maybe someone like a Kudus could play up top. You have other guys who could do a job for you. But if you have both your strikers injured, then it becomes, you know, needs must. You know, you just have to sort of plug someone in there. You're not really. I mean, even like Liverpool, like, you know, they won the league, and I mean, their options were what? Jota and Darwin Nunez, you know, if I'm not mistaken. You know, they kind of had to just sort of deal with, you know, two players that can more or less play up top. And that's, I think, the reality for most teams. Chelsea right now, it's Nicholas Jackson and Liam Delap. You know, those are the two choices.
Oh, João Pedro, didn't he just go out there as well? So they have three now.
Yeah, maybe three. I wonder where he'll play though.
I think João Pedro will open up for them selling Jackson. Apparently, there's a lot of suitors for him anyway. So
okay, yeah, maybe he's the Jackson replacement.
But look, we're going to go for about another 10-15 minutes, guys. You know, we're going to roll for another 10-15 minutes. So, is there any topics that maybe anyone wants to bring up?
Yeah, Mia's joined. Mia, do you want to spice things up?
I think Paul also. So we'll let me in, and then we'll go back to Paul because I think Paul was trying to sound in there as well.
I'm being like a Johnson and I tapping merchant coming in last minute. With the money thing, it's a really difficult one because I do feel like that we have spent money, but it's like we spend money, say, on like a Van de Ven, which I thought was a really good buy, an intelligent buy, because he's a very good player. And then we will overpay for other players. So like it's a bit of a mad one because we do actually spend money, and some of the time we do spend it reasonably sensible. Bergvall, fantastic player, fantastic buy. But then other times, like I say, we overpay. So I don't really know. There's no logic to it, if that makes sense. There's no logic to what we do when we do buy players at times. But what I will say is to say that we've had many years of not buying good. I agree. There's been bits where we haven't, But when you look at Pochettino's time, the squad we assembled for him, he turned down apparently players as well at times. But the squad we got for him was very good. So we have had moments where we have bought well. We bought Gareth Bale. We bought Luka Modric. So, I mean, like, we have bought well at times, but just not collective, not a good enough bunch of players in a time, I guess.
We never follow them up. Do you know what I mean? Like we can find some, like, it's one thing I do attribute to Tottenham. Even taking the Aaron Lennon from the Leeds Academy, Kyle Walker from the Sheffield United Academy stuff. We are Danny Rose as well brought into the club and stuff. Like, we are good at that. But you know what we're not good at is having a problem in the squad and addressing it with real quality. You know, ready to go. We're always looking for the next gem off the block. And at some point, and that's where your money ends up tallying up. And all of a sudden, that's where the questions come in going, oh, what the fuck have we spent it on? And also, it doesn't help that you sack a manager every season or two at Tottenham Hotspur. So when it comes round to, because, you know, you finish the season under manager, you go, right, next season, this area of the squad needs to be fixed, this area. Next thing, you bring in a new manager, everything's up in the air again. You know what I mean? And then it's chaos. So, like, there's a lot of problems that attribute to why we spent a lot of money but haven't got a lot of, you know, there's a lot of mismatch in it, you know. And at the end of the day, the fact that we've got a hire and fire policy of every season or two for a manager sort of indicates that there is something wrong with your transfer policy.
It's almost like we go for a marquee signing, only one marquee signing every summer, and then it's mixed in with a lot of gambles, you know, as well. Whereas like you look at even Liverpool is not the best example, but even look at what they've brought in. They're almost all guaranteed, you know. I mean, of course, maybe some of them might not work out, but a lot of people would rate these players. They brought in Mamardashvili, you know, the Georgian keeper. They brought in Frimpong. They brought in Kirkesh. They brought in Wirtz, you know, and might even be missing another player there. Like, those are all, like, guaranteed to shake up the first team, you know, sort of players. Like, Spurs just don't do that. Even if Spurs did 3 of those signings, we would all be overjoyed, you know.
The thing is, Jack, is that a lot of people say, oh, we should have got this player when they were younger, and when they, you know, because now they've turned out to be good. And then we do try and get players when they're younger, and then people say, oh, well, we need to buy. It's like, what I'm saying, it's just not balanced. Like, I feel like we do need to obviously scout like we have done in the past, but I do feel like we also need to balance it out. And I think it's that lack of balance that I think gets everybody annoyed, because it's the lack of balance with trying to get these young players in that people say we should have got this player in when they were young, instead of paying a lot of money for them when they're at their best. But then we've got to balance it obviously with experience and with players that we feel are good enough, and we don't balance the team enough.
I get what you're saying in that regard, to be fair, Mia. What I would say on that, though, is, you know, what do people want this club to be? Like, if you want them out there just scouting young players, you know, but before they, you know, end up going for a whopper price, then you're going to be a Brighton. You're going to be a Brentford. That's what you're going to be. You know, if you want to be challenging, you've got to go out there and try and get the best players for the job. At the end of the day, you know, you look at the likes of your Real Madrid, your Liverpools, your Barcelonas. They sign players for the here and now. They're also picking up the next protege from Brazil, from here, from there, you know, because they can do that, you know, because they've got their first team ready together a lot of the times to go and fix their problems with ready-made goal players. So, but then that also frees them up then to go and scout the next gen, bring them in. That's why, you know, the likes of Vinicius comes out of nowhere, you know, and that's where Spurs fans go, we got to try and find these lads when they're younger. Yeah, but you can do that once you've got your first team sorted. Your first
there's also four or five that haven't made it for every one that we know who has made it in those clubs. So there's plenty of sort of 15, 16, 17-year-olds they signed from South America who don't make it into their first team, and we only know about the ones that do make it. I would say, Mia, that there were plenty of misses in the transfer market during Poch's time as well. It wasn't all sunny uplands. There were plenty.
No, of course. But do you not think that all teams have that?
There were plenty of Kiriches. There were plenty of Clinton and Jay. There were plenty of really. There were Paulinho. Should have been a fantastic player. Never made it.
Jetson Fernandez.
There were plenty.
Brian Hills.
Yeah, exactly. If you go and have a look, that you can see there's loads of
Yeah, but I think all teams have that to a certain degree. I don't think that like we're the only team that if you look at other
In the
teams
top six, though, I think we do it a bit more than others, don't we?
Yeah, I think if you look at Liverpool, right? Liverpool's major success in the last 6 to 8 years has been less transfer failures, right? They've failed in the transfer market a lot less. And actually, Conte mentioned this. Conte actually explicitly said it. We need to have less failures in the transfer market. He explicitly said it because it has been a consistent problem, and it certainly was under Hitchin.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was just going to say before we continue on that, I have a couple of chats here that I do want to take, but I definitely do agree with you on that one, Rain. And to Jack's point, just quickly as well, like if we are comparing ourselves to the top 6, which is very quickly becoming the top 8, or you're looking at clubs around you, Newcastle seem to be getting a hell of a lot right. Aston Villa, people laugh at Chelsea, but they're throwing the money at the problem and they're getting it right. Liverpool, a lot of these teams that we're expected to compete with, which managers are hired and fired based on their ability to be able to compete with them. We've got it. That's what we've got to compare ourselves to. And Jack is right. We have a lot more misses than a lot of them other teams. But we just take this from Martin Nicebridge, member for 23 months, says, big up, lads. Can't wait to get a few signings and just to get the season back on. Hate not having footy on, even though last season was a tough watch. Well, there is footy on. There's that Club World Championship.
I wish we were in it.
Yeah, I do, to be fair, and hopefully winning Europa League will get us into it in the future. But to be honest with you, I haven't even bothered going to pay the zone for it, to be quite frank. I feel like the first one should be free to air for the whole world, to be honest with you, rather than having to go to the zone and paying for it. But look, as for signings, we're still sitting here twiddling our thumbs, Martin Knightsbridge. I don't think any, even people that were telling me to be patient 3 weeks ago, I don't think anyone was expecting it to go on this long without any actual really improvements for it. First team. Big up, Martin. We've got this from Dermatron. Says, big up, me. Great to hear you. Come on, you Spurs. And he's also sent in a super sticker as well. Really appreciate that. I think he's giving me a hug there. I'm not quite so sure, but big up, Dermatron. Really appreciate the super sticker, my man. And
said bye-bye.
Oh, bye-bye. Big up, Derma. He's got his own show coming up shortly. We'll be ended off in the next 5 or 10 minutes here as well, and then people get over to Dermatron's. RST says, question for everyone, but mainly Dave, do you think the way we've been handling these transfer windows is borderline malpractice? I mean, yes, 100%. I scream about it every window, and then I get told to calm down and everything else. And then when I calm down because the window's closed and there's nothing that can be done, everyone wants to go into uproar mode, and I wonder why I don't go into uproar mode. Anyway, and then Iceman says, I will drop you a message on Twitter tomorrow, Jack and Dave.
Yeah, he was saying he couldn't find the link, but we'll just sort you out next time, Iceman. We'll just sort you out next time. No, I don't. That's what I was saying. It's in there. Maybe
we'll sort it out with Iceman.
We'll sort it out with them next time. Big up, Ricky.
Just coming back to, was it Artist T who asked that?
Yeah.
Asked that question. Was that there was a great tweet from a West Ham account that regularly tweets about West Ham stuff, where he said, Kudus to Tottenham seems to be gathering pace. However, I fully expect Spurs to do all of the groundwork before Chelsea swoop in and sign the player for around 65 to 70 million on a 7-year contract. And would any of us bet against that exact thing happening? No.
Anybody, even like the Jonathan David one, we were linked with for so long, and then all of a sudden, Juventus just swoop in and steal. I'm not saying I even wanted Jonathan David, but we were told like in January that was like someone Spurs were like lining up, to bring in on a free transfer. I saw no rumors of Juventus, doing any work, until the last 24, 48 hours. All of a sudden he's a Juventus player. So it seems like some clubs either know how to just sort of get it over the line a lot quicker than us. Maybe it's biased because we know the day-to-day of Tottenham Hotspur, but it seems like certain clubs just seem to be able to just get the deals done a lot quicker than us. For us, it always seems to take a long time.
Look at Chelsea getting João Pedro sorted. Bish bash bosh done. Super Spurs, I think that is a fantastic.
We explore for 2 weeks.
Fantastic shout. Yeah. I think that is absolutely spot on. I think they are.
Screaming, would want him, wouldn't he? He's worked with Basuma.
They are screaming out for some central midfield. We are overloaded in the 8. Absolutely, we don't need bit. We don't. I've got Basuma on my get
I
rid.
think to be able to sell
Yeah.
West Ham to Basuma is easy. Just tell him balloons is the same as bubbles, and he's there.
No, but do you know what the problem is, though, Dave? Right? It's not going to happen. They want the cash all up front. Like I've said, they want the cash all the way up front, mate.
Are you an ITK now?
Well, West Ham do have PSR problems. They are looking for a certain amount up front. I think that's why they're willing to go a bit below the actual release clause in his contract, because they are trying to clear themselves of PSR problems.
They said they want 60 up front, all of it up front. All
They're
that
never
60
going to
up
get
front.
60 up front.
Then do you know what I do? I'd buy Kudus, and I'd give them this on loan with a what is it, an obligation to buy at the end of the season. Then they can sort out their PSR. That way, we get Basuma off our books, and we get the player in that we want. That's the way. If that's the way it is, Rhino, there's always a way to fix it, right?
Mm.
Well, I'm just telling you what I've heard. So,
Yeah.
Cheers, you and Dermo. You and Dermo must have the same source, lad.
No, it's
What,
do you know
barbecue?
Really not, mate. It's just obviously I'm more in the know at the moment than because I've got a close friend obviously who's West Ham, so he keeps me up to date with all the ins and outs of it. So
Joao
that's
Pedro
how I
was
know
signed
it's
for
going.
£55 million and $5 million in add-ons. That's supposedly what we sent in to West Ham, but it got rejected. I mean, are they
Yeah.
kind of the same caliber of player, do we think, in terms of price and fee?
I honestly don't think Basuma's anywhere near the price and fee for Kudus, to be honest.
I was saying Joao
Kudus
Pedro, Brighton's star, was bought for, it just came through, £55 million, $5 million in add-ons. According to one of the ITKs, that was the bid that we basically sent in for Kudus, but it got rejected. So I'm just curious, if Spurs, are basically just looking at the, are they basically the same caliber of player? Would someone be more happy with a Pedro than they would be with a Kudus, or are they kind of the same type of player?
Oh no, I would be happy to have either. But what's really annoying is because I'm being told that they want the whole 60 million straight away. I just don't see how.
Sure, if we're offering them 55, why can't we just give them the 60? It's only 5 million. You know what I mean? That's the thing. Like, why 55 million plus 5 in add-ons? Just pay the fucking 60. If you got 55, you can stretch to 60.
Yeah, simple. It's simple, Dave. And it's just silly, isn't it? Really, because it's that same thing again. Penny
Got some ITK wars here, though. Dermot says it's not true right now.
Penny pinching, leaving.
Well,
I agree with Super Spurs, though. I think, we would all be really happy with the transfer window. We would all be really happy with the transfer window if we did sign Kudus and then brought in another top-level forward of some kind. I think people would be I don't think anybody would be complaining. Yeah. So Super Spurs is 100% spot on.
Big up Super Spurs. Oh, well, I think we'll start to wrap it up there, guys, will we?
Unless any more pressing. We did Romero rumors quickly. Do you, Mia, on that one? Do you believe them?
No, I think that we won't let him go for an X amount. I think the amounts that have been quoted are ridiculously low. I don't think that Levy's going to let him go for that. I really don't. I can't see that happening unless he's pushing to go. That's a different matter. But if he's not pushing to go and they're just trying to put pressure on us, that's nowhere near enough. That is, but because it's in euros as well. So they're well below the mark.
I agree. I think you have it right on there.
Yeah.
Especially if he's not making any real noises to go, then it's going to have to be 70, 80 million upwards, I think.
I think if you actually look at our squad and actually look at the centre-backs that we've got, I think it's very, very unlikely they'll let Romero go. And also people are looking at Romero and thinking he only plays 50% of the games. Season before, he played over 30 games in the Premier League. Mm-hmm. Right, he played an incredible number of games in the season before. Last season was a bit of an anomaly. There was something going on, and I still think we need to get a witch doctor down to that training pitch, to the training ground, and exercise it, because we've had too much going on there. Make sure there's no Guna builders have hidden something in the foundation. But I just can't. I'm looking. If we sold Romero, we'd literally have Danzo and Mickey as our two sort of semi-experienced / experienced centre backs. I just can't see the club sanctioning that.
Yeah.
See, the only way I would accept Romero going is if it's where, like Jack said, 70, 80 million. Because
what does the money help us though? What does the money help? The money doesn't help us if we've only got Danzo and Mickey van der Ven as our experienced centre backs.
Ryan, did you want him gone? I'm sure that you said you wanted Romero gone. You wanted him sold.
He wants everyone gone, Mia.
So I don't.
He wants the whole
Like,
team
you're
sold, Mia.
the biggest flip flop, bloody. No, I can't keep up.
no, I've said I wanted him gone, but I said I would want him gone for the right price, not just for just a silly 40 million. You're trying to attack me, Mia, when I'm actually agreeing with you.
I'm not attacking you. I'm asking you. I was simply asking you. That's not attacking you, Ryan. If that's attacking you, bloody hell, you could hear what I do to my kids, how I talk to them at times. You think that's bloody attacking you?
Right, children. Let's order in the courtroom. We've got
Question for everyone.
Member for 43 months. Big up, lads. I hope you're doing good. Big up, Moondog. Yeah, look, doing all right. Not gonna lie, starting to get a little bit frustrated with the lack of activity this summer, my man. Really, and what irks me more is we're off the back in the Europa League. Follow that up with a couple of players. Give us a bit of a wet lips for next season, if you know what I mean. Big up, Moondog. Good to see you, my man. But look, I suppose we will start to wrap it up here, guys. We'll start by, I think there's a new channel.
Just give you a quick question, Dave, before we go. Right, as I was saying this to Ryan before, basically, how attractive are Spurs to these top players right now? When you look at our last 4 seasons in the league, we went 4th, then we went 8th, then we went 5th, then we went 17th. And the only cup run we had, which we won, was the Europa League. So if you're a player, and we might offer the same wages as PSG, Bayern Munich, Liverpool to these players, but are these players going to choose Spurs over those clubs, even though we're offering exactly the same package?
If you start
So
doing
how
things
attractive
right,
are we?
if you start doing things right and start competing for trophies, then you can start competing. At the end of the day,
but that's what I mean.
Man City broke into that mold and now started being able to attract top players and stuff like that. Why can't Tottenham?
But I think that's half the problem. We haven't got the stability. We're constantly changing managers. Our recruitment team don't know what they're buying and what they're not buying. But how attractive is that look to a player? We want these big signature signings like Eze, and even people have been talking about Gyökeres and Sesko and all these massive players. But are they going to be attracted to come to Spurs to finish between 5th and 10th? They don't want that. And
that's an absolute fair point, and look, that's something I've tried to say about hiring foreign managers all the time. Eventually, you're going to get a perception of a bad club and stuff like that, but you're absolutely spot on, Paul. So off the back of that great point, what's coming up with what we're here expecting with your channel here with Ryan?
We're more going along the lines of we want to make it as fun and interactive as possible for everybody. So for example, we'll do things like we'd start a question in the one stream and we'll do the answer in the following stream. Obviously, expecting people not to Google it and things. We just want to try and make it interactive, talk football and have fun. It's not going to be seriously tactical. It's not going to be massively into detail like stats of this and stats of that player and this player. It's just going to be more of a general football chat, have a laugh, have a giggle, and a bit of banter thrown in between.
Yeah, and then whilst we're at it, Davo, we might just mute each other or kick each other just for the fun of it.
Fair enough.
Ryan will be getting muted quite a lot by the sounds of it.
I was going to say, you're going to be permanently on mute, ain't you, Ryan?
Probably, Mia, but you know what? I don't really care because it's all the fun and laughs and the giggles, mate.
And it'd be the most sense that you've made as well.
Well, I would encourage everybody here, please. It's a new channel. Let's everybody show a bit of kindness, a bit of love to these two Spurs fans. Get over there and let's try and help it get off the ground. So please smash that subscribe button. The link is here in the chat. Get over there and smash it. Really like Paul. Really good time for Rhino as well. So, guys, please get over there and show them a lot of love. And then we also got Mia's link in here. Mia, Tottenham Lone Wolf. People need to get
Yes.
out.
Yeah, I'm just obviously starting out again, and it would just be me talking about Tottenham, and that's it really. It's not a complex thing. It's just me talking about Tottenham.
Blame Jack, by the way. He put the link in, so I didn't know what to do after
Yeah,
that.
no, I did last week. It's all right because I
Okay.
did say, because I was like umming and ahhing in it about it, because I've done it for a few weeks, and then I was a bit like, oh yeah, well, I might as well just say it.
Yeah, I get sucked into it again.
As you can see, I'm a chicken shit. I dropped Jack straight in it. But no,
Yeah,
guys,
feel free. We do it to
Yeah,
each other all the time. We do it to each other all the time.
please get over there again. Smash a like on Mia's channel. We all like a bit of Mia around here, so make sure you get over again and show the love. And then we've also got Rayman. Rayman, have you anything you want to plug or anything going on in your life you want to let people know about?
No. I just like coming on here and having a bit of a Barney.
No, we do enjoy your contributions, so keep coming back, my man. We do enjoy your contributions. Do you know what? We may get you on a panel show with us sometime. You know, we've got some of our thumbnails ready and that now, so we're going to start doing some live shows a bit more regularly and that. So, you know, we'll get you on for 1 or 2, Rayman, if you're free around, my man. Big up, we'll add you to the list.
I forgot to say, Dave, sorry. I forgot to say, everyone, me and Paul are going to be on Dermos in 20 minutes' time. So if you guys want to see more, me and Paul will be over there with Dermo, and it'll probably be kind of fiery as well between me and Dermo. But
honestly, it's going to be like the Levy and Vinay meeting with Johan Langtron, and it's going to be absolutely chaos. So, guys, make sure you get over and check out THFC Till You Die for these guys at 9 p.m. But we'll leave it there. Guys, it's been an absolute barren day, like the Sahara Desert, absolutely dry. Hopefully, it starts wetting up a bit this week, you know, some juicy signings or something like that, because my God, I am getting a bit irritated right now. I cannot lie. We'll see you all back here tomorrow. Oh, by the way, me and Jack were bored today, so we just sort of put together a ranking video where, you know, players that we should never sell at Tottenham Hotspur in this current squad, and players that if an offer came in we would consider. So make sure you get in, check out a ranking video on that. As you can see, we end up resorting to that just as a bit of fun, because we were so bored. But guys, enjoy your evenings. We'll see you back here tomorrow as always. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Thanks very much.